Good morning to you once again. Thank you so much for choosing Morning at NTV to guide you on the matters of the day, especially those that have transpired in the last 24 hours. I am Priscilla Regina Naloga. In our Kickstarter this morning, we're going to be focusing on examining Uganda's security operations in Kenya and, of course, magnifying the extradition law. A backbone of it is that yesterday the country was illuminated with the news of the arrest of former four-time presidential candidate Dr. Kizza Besigye. Now, Besigye had been arrested more than once. However, the most shocking part in this particular arrest is that he was get from Kenya, where, according to close sources, he had went on an invitation of a Kenyan prominent political figure, Martha Karua, for a book launch. And so they were there Saturday. The book launch was meant to be on Sunday, and then perhaps this threw a little bit of panic among opposition political figures. It is raising a lot of skepticism on Kenya's sovereignty in protecting people, and also there's a lot of nitty-gritties that we want to understand, especially through the lenses of his legal team, the opposition, as well as the government, all whom are well represented on my table this morning. Allow me to make introductions of our guest. We do have Counsel Samuel Ronald Wanda, who is part of the legal representatives of Dr. Kizza Besigye. Good morning to you, Counsel.
Good morning, Priscilla. Good morning to our viewers and fellow panelists.
How is the doctor?
The doctor is strong. Had a chat with him yesterday, and he said all will be well.
Okay.
We shall have a team visiting him today in prison to find out more about what transpired in Kenya.
All right. Of course, now there's the colleague also that was arrested.
Ebil is also fine and is strong. Of course, it was a shocker to him. He has not been arrested before, but he's strong. A team will be visiting them today, a team of lawyers, to find out more, because from the time of the arrest, we hadn't had time to interact with them.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Representing the opposition in this conversation from UPC, the Secretary General is on our table equally, Mr. Fred Ebil. Good morning to you.
Morning, Priscilla. Morning, viewers of NTV. Good morning, colleagues who are in the panel today. Yeah.
Okay. And on behalf of government, Mr. Bamwine Fred, who is a commissioner with the President's office. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Priscilla. Good morning, viewers of NTV, and I'm happy to be here on this show. Good morning, my colleagues whom I'm managed to find here.
All right. Let's start with Counsel Wanda to give us an account of, yesterday when Doctor was presented to the General Court Martial. It was an abrupt news of his arrest from Kenya, and then you, as the legal team that is representing him, what are the charges that are against Dr. Kizza Besigye?
Dr. Kizza Besigye and his colleague Ebil were charged with 4 counts, all of them relating to security. And the first one is that the duo between 2023 and November 2024 have been in several cities discussing how they can garner support to destabilize the security of the country. And notable among the countries is Athens, then we have Switzerland, and then we have in Nairobi. And then the other two are jointly, count 2 and count 3, they were found in possession of a pistol, whose details are on the charge sheet. And then the fourth one is that they were found with 8 rounds of ammunition of a pistol. Those are the 4 counts that they were charged with yesterday. And of course, they've pleaded not guilty to the charges and further challenged the jurisdiction of the military court-martial because they believe they are civilians and they shouldn't be tried in such a court. We shall have a ruling, one on the legality of the charge sheet itself, because we believe it's wanting, because we believe that the General Court Martial doesn't have international jurisdiction like the ICC. If I've committed crimes elsewhere, then you don't have jurisdiction over me, except there are particular crimes that we feel can fall even within the jurisdiction of the courts of Uganda, not only in the General Court Martial. Crimes like money laundering, crimes like terrorism, those ones can be charged because they are transnational crimes. The crimes they are charged with today are not transnational crimes, and therefore if they are committed anywhere else in the world, we believe that the courts of this country do not have jurisdiction over them. They were remanded to Luzuria Maximum Prison until the 2nd of December. One, for mention on the progress of the state with their investigations, but also a ruling from the General Court Martial on the legality of the charge sheet and also issues concerning whether they should indeed be in this court and in this country being tried, looking at the fact that their arrest and being brought back to this country is a nullity in itself, and something we shall develop into more in this discussion this morning.
Okay. Well, as of yesterday, the accounts of his arrest were given to us by his wife, Winnie Byanyima. I would like to hear from you. Has your client given you an account of how he believes he got extracted from Kenya back into Uganda?
We started the trace of our client on Saturday evening. When he went missing and not responding to any of his calls. It got more worrying on Sunday morning when even we tried calling Abnd and he himself also not respond. It's until late on Tuesday that we got information that he was in Uganda. And we've not had a discussion with him, as I've indicated earlier, on how he was arrested. And the wife, Honorable Winnie, has got information from her sources within both the country and outside the country on how he was arrested and was brought back. But all we can confirm is that, at least the little chat we had with him yesterday at the General Court Martial, is that he was abducted from Nairobi and he was drove back to Uganda.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Kizza Wanda. Turning to Mr. Ebil here. This is your colleague in the struggle to liberate Uganda.
Yes,
and you get to see such things happening at a time when we are leapfrogging into the next electoral cycle for Uganda, the 2026 general elections. From where you are seated, how do you analyze the situation at hand?
No, for us as UPC, we have always known that the NRM, which has the foundation from the Bush War, was built on the foundation stone of lies. Because they went to the Bush, including Dr. Besigye, that the elections of 1980 were rigged. These were lies, just like the lies that the serpent, the great story of the Bible, in which the serpent deceived Eve and Adam, that if you eat this fruit that God has forbidden you, you'll be wise like God. You'll be able to see. So later on, man is suffering today because of those lies. The same way Uganda is suffering because of those lies that took Dr. Besigye and Mr. Museveni, took them to the bush, that the elections were rigged. In any case, he had got only one member of parliament. The UPC had won that election clearly. Now you come back to the promises that he promised, the Constitution of 1995, and he had promised the fundamental change anyway. So the Constitution was promulgated, the articles were there, which were there safeguards. There were safeguards measures to safeguard the Constitution to ensure that the smooth transition takes place. First of all was the age limit, the term limits, which were removed because of the lies. And when those of the Ria Kategai rebelled and Miriam Matemba and the group, they had hope still in the age limit, which the president clearly told one of your journalists here then, and said that at the age of 75 really, he thinks he should retire, a leader should retire because you can no longer be able to govern. That one was lifted, meaning that it was a lie. The lies continued. So the reason why people are not, I don't want to discuss the merits of the case. They may have a case that Dr. Besigye could have left Kilimani, that hotel of his, to move to the other apartment to discuss something, whether business, whether it was criminal. But the reason why people don't trust the government is because of the lies that they've told over time. And remember, Dr. Bote said it clearly when Andrew Mwenda was interviewing him, that Museveni is a liar, pathological liar. So the lies continue. So it is these lies that has brought us here. That is why people are not believing this case of having a gun, 2 pistols, in Kenya, discussing about Switzerland, meeting in Switzerland, discussing meetings in Greece. It looks funny, really. Why Switzerland? Why Greece? Why not America? Why not Britain? So all these are things that are going on in people's mind. So we cannot discuss the merits because the matters are in court.
Yes.
But we are saying we've seen these lies before, and the cases were dropped on Dr. Besigye. So let us hope that this case also will be dropped. But it is very unfortunate that we are here today as a country at a time when we should have had constitutional amendments to deal with reforms that will bring free and fair elections, and we have a democratic elections for the first time, and we have a smooth transition as a nation. But here we are discussing today actually an abduction of a citizen, a fellow citizen. It is really very unfortunate, because if you look at the ADF leader, the way he was extradited from Tanzania, it was formal. Why abduct people? Why abduct citizens of Uganda? Why don't you get a formal way of doing things? The blood of many citizens were poured in the hands of the ADF leader, but the formal process was followed. Why didn't they follow the formal process? Was he a very big threat than the ADF leader, Jamil Mukulu? So these are the questions that the Ugandans are asking. To me, what I want to tell Ugandans, all your problems will be solved in the ballot of 2026. Because we told you as UPC in 1981, as people joined the bush, that those were lies. The lies continued even after 1986. The lies have continued up to today. The only remedy you have is in your ballot. All the lies that I've told you about UPC, you've come to prove that they were lies.
Okay.
So I beg Ugandans not to trust all these liars and the people who believed in the lies.
That being said, we do have Mr. Bamwine here. Mr. Bamwine, how have we gotten here as a country to have such an expose of a political leader, an opposition political leader, being extradited from one country back home in such a manner, and also a civilian being rolled in military court?
You see, in my adult life, I've been a full-time participant in the political development of this country and the economic activities of this country. So, and I've been very keen to whatever takes place. One, this issue has two dimensions. One is the security of Uganda as a country. And I'm very sure, let it be council or Mr. B, nobody doesn't want a stable country called Uganda. Maybe if you have another country. But if you are Ugandan, you would wish to have this stable country for yourself, for Ugandans, to be able to live in a peaceful manner. So, in that situation, the government of Uganda, through the constitution, is given instruments and institutions to make sure that the state of Uganda is stable, and at the same time, to make sure that anybody who attempts to destabilize the country is held according to the law. That's one. Two, we are talking about an alleged arrest from Kenya. If you talk of Kenya, that's another country. And in international law, countries are sovereign. There's no way Uganda can arrest whether it's citizen or none of its citizen from another country and bring the suspect here without an agreement or an authorization from that country. So we need to unpack, because this is not the first time. You remember at one time there was a Kenyan called Dodongo, yes, who was fighting Omoi government, yes, and he was based in Uganda. And then there were some Ugandans who also were based in Kenya fighting the government of Uganda. So they reached some certain pact, and Dodongo was relocated to another country, other countries, and also the Ugandans who are basing in Kenya. So there's an understanding, at least in terms of strategic security, between Uganda and Kenya. Not until you have an pact to see, was there a breach? Is Kenya complaining? If Kenya is not complaining, that means the due process was followed. Fortunately, in Uganda, everybody is a suspect. Besigye and his friend, also with my friend Obed, they are not convicts. They are suspects according to the charge sheet, which was already yesterday. 2, they have been presented to court. And I have no doubt, fortunately there is a lawyer here, the due process will be followed to see the kind of evidence the state may have against them. If they don't have sufficient evidence, they regain their freedom. But the bigger picture should be, and to inform everybody, that the state of Uganda is alive. It has institutions and instruments given by the Constitution and the Pope of Uganda. We have security agencies in this country, internally and externally. And their biggest responsibility is to monitor us, even me. We have internal security organization, we have external security organization. When you wake up in the morning coming to NTV, there's that Ugandan who is interested to know Priscilla. Has she going to conduct the show, or she's planning some things? And if in intelligence, there's what they call early warning signals. If there are some warnings that this lady does not actually wake up early to go to conduct the show only, but she has other ulterior motives that can bring security in this country, you'll be arrested. And these agencies are paid by the government of Uganda, by the people of Uganda, and their emoluments and payments are approved by the Parliament of Uganda. Okay. Therefore, I would, maybe if you're a newcomer, since 2011, Besigye has been telling everybody that he does not believe to change a government in Uganda through a ballot. He claims that in the election of 2011 he was dragged in the election. He claims in 2016 he was dragged in the election, and he says the last election he refused because he's convinced that the Uganda government cannot be changed through election. And recently when you were, I think it was here, when you were interviewing these people who are a breakaway from FDC, when they were forming a party, they said, we are not forming a party to compete for power and win. We are forming a party which is going to be a vehicle to make sure that there is regime change. Okay. Not through elections.
You have talked about early warning signs, Mr. Bamwine, just hold it right there, which causes me to turn to Mr. Ebil here and inquire. Early warning signals that he has talked about, could this be somewhat early warning signals to the opposition that they should stay in their lane as we gear into the electoral cycle of 2026 general elections, that they should be mindful of their every step? Is this a message, if we can say?
Yeah, it's a message, and that we should be, and we have been. But I've told you that also these elections will not be free and fair unless we have the reforms that the Supreme Court pronounced itself in 2016. Mm-hmm. So in other words, much as we political players are urging, and today I'm leaving here, I'm going to Electoral Commission for a meeting with them. They have been asking us that Parliament should give us the reforms. The Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs should give us the reforms that the Supreme Court asked for, so that we have a free and fair elections. The reason why some people may get out of the lane is because of having an election which is predetermined by the government or the ruling party. Rigged elections, pre-rigged actual elections, because there is a pre-rigged elections because you'll find the military there that the Supreme Court said it was wrong. Elections which is really, they announce results which are not really genuine. We've seen it recently in Kisoro. So we are saying that we need the reforms. We need to go back to the path of democracy. The foundation that the Constitution put us on, that is the path we should follow. So we are requesting the President to keep his word. For the first time, I know as you grow older, you tend not to lie so much. So as he grows older, he should now stop the lies, because he's about to go to heaven, as he said. So the Creator will ask him, you promised Ugandans that you will do this. For example, in Lango, they were talking of the manifesto. He promised that the Akibwa Stadium will be built for AFCON. It has never been built, not even a sand, not even 2 bricks were poured there. He promised that they will compensate the people of the north and east, their cattle which was stolen by the Karamojo, the so-called Karamojo. They have never been compensated. So all these are promises which have failed. So if people are now not believing in you because you've been lying throughout, remember all the lies since 1981 to go to the bush up to today. At least as he grows older, let him say the truth for once. And I believe that he will have to tell the minister, because the Minister of Justice cannot come with the reforms without his authority. So for us to remain in the lane, let the prerequisite is we need to have the reforms, electoral reforms, so that we believe in the elections. So if Bamwine is saying the truth, which I don't believe, but you know Bamwine is a big liar also. He has been fed with his lies from Chiankwanzi to date. All the lies that has been told to Dr. Besigye and the rest. So I don't believe that what he's saying about Dr. Besigye is true. But if it is true that he said that elections cannot be changed through the ballot, that means he is saying that let us have the reforms that the Supreme Court pronounced itself on.
All right,
yes.
Mr. Bamwine, there's a lawyer here that you can to defend you against those statements. But speaking of the lawyer here, Council Wanda, in an act to consolidate the law relating to extradition of persons convicted or accused of crimes committed within the jurisdiction of other countries, this was propagated in 1964. Can you walk us through the interpretation of that law and how effective it is and applicable it is to today, especially in this scenario?
Thank you, Priscilla. The law of extradition is not bad in itself. It's a good law because its purpose majorly is to ensure that a fugitive is brought back to a national country to answer to charges or to serve a sentence. So its parameters are 2. The first one is you must have been charged in courts of law locally, and you've evaded the prosecution. And the second one is you've stood trial, you've been convicted, and you've left the country, so you can't serve your sentence. So those are the 2 parameters. And countries have extradition agreements between them. And I'm very sure Kenya and Uganda have one. And internationally, when it comes to laws of extradition, is that you cannot extradite someone if the requesting state, among the charges they are talking of, is a political offense. And there is a due process. And what is the due process? The due process is that someone has to appear in court in the hosting country upon a request by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Uganda, let's say to Kenya. The person is notified of the request. he stands in court, he or she stands in court, and the government of Uganda proves that indeed there is a pending case against this person, or this person has already been convicted and is a fugitive here. We want him back in Uganda to either serve the sentence or stand trial. And the courts in the hosting country will hear both parties, determine, and then will make a ruling. Now, the purpose of the hearing is to ensure that political refugees do not return to the countries where they are being persecuted. Now, once we miss out on all this and people are just abducted from countries and brought back, today we are looking at Besigye as a person. But just 3 months ago, we had the Kisumu 36 people. Same manner. They are in Kisumu for leadership training. The day they arrived, the security operatives both from Uganda and Kenya, and I'm very clear with the words of Uganda and Kenya, because the accused persons have indicated that people were speaking Runyankole and Luganda. So unlikely that the Kenyan will understand these languages. Entered into their hotel, they were being hosted at the Ukweli Catholic Parish, broke into it, and were all bounded onto trucks and brought back to Uganda without a due process. And Haludi Shipokalani, in her ruling of the bail application, she hints on that. She wonders how people were brought from Kisumu to Uganda without the due process of either extradition or deportation. Now, over the weekend, the same thing has happened. My friend here, Fred, said we all want security. Indeed, we all want security in this country.
Which Fred? Because I'm also Fred.
Bamwine.
Be clear about
Yes.
what a liar.
We all want security in this country. But we are saying the security in this country, if we are to enforce it, let us again follow the law. Because as we speak today, Besigye is still resident in Kenya. Though he was charged yesterday.
So that is to mean that his travel documents are still in Nairobi?
His travel documents are still in Nairobi. He never went through immigration on his way back. And the same happened with the 36 Kisumu people. They never went through immigration on their way back. But when he talked about Kenya is a sovereign state, we agree.
Let's first also just unpack that. So if he's still in Kenya, as far as crossing borders is concerned, what's the implication on that if he's being held here for a long time?
Our argument, and we present this to the chairman of the General Court Martial yesterday, and the state prosecutor had no response to it. Actually, our application to have them discharged because they were brought here illegally, because they did not go through the extradition process, their travel documents are not with them, or neither are they in Uganda, at least as of today morning. When the judge advocate in the General Court Martial asked the state prosecutor to respond to that, he simply said, I leave it to court. So to us, we believe that even being charged in this court today is illegal and a nullity in itself, because they left the country through the normal process, through immigration in Uganda. They were cleared entry into Kenya, but now there is no clearance of their exit.
Okay.
And neither has Kenya deported them. So and that's the question we're asking about. What transpired? Can the government explain to the country? Has it become a norm that opposition leaders are going to be abducted from Kenya? Will
the government make a small call and say, just exit them, just put in the stamps and send the documents back?
Government can do that. I don't want to speak for government, but to us at least, what we want is the due process. And I think the other question we should be asking whether is Kenya safe for people to go there.
We'll get into that question, but you are still summarizing for us
the extradition. So once a ruling is made, then someone can be, the hosting country will hand over that person back to the requesting country, and the person will come to stand trial. Honorable Fred Ebil talked about the suspected rebel leader of ADF, Jamil Mukulu. there was a due process. Of course, even him, he has challenges with it because he believes he should have had time to appeal against the ruling, because still that is provided for until it's finally determined that indeed there's a case against you. Please go back. Because, I mean, why is there a rush? Someone is already in custody. If you're talking about security, someone is already in custody. Probably in the hosting country, you've apprehended them. Now, why don't you go through the normal process? Because if the fear is about security, then he can no longer go ahead and plan.
If the two governments are communicating about this.
He can no longer go ahead and plan what they were planning. So I heard yesterday that government has safe houses everywhere. That was by the spokesperson, and said that even in other places we have safe houses. So that's why they were being kept. But now, if you have someone in your custody, why don't you then go through the normal process?
Okay.
So to us, the law of extradition was abused. It's continuing to be abused. And I think now it's time that even our parliamentarians should look at it again. Yes, it's a law of 1964. Does it still meet the standards today with the technology that has come up, with the disrespect of rule of law and democracy? Is it still up to date?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Councillor Wanda. We're going to be taking a short breather, allow you to digest on what has been put on table so far. When we return, we get to knock the nails, drill them further into the discussion. Do stay with us. Debate with my guests this morning as we continue looking into the case of Dr. Kizza Besigye, his extradition from Kenya into Uganda, examining the security operations and the relations as far as security is concerned between the two countries. Councillor Wanda had brought to light, an explanation of the 1964 Act as far as extraditions are concerned, and he was saying that again there's some legalities that must be followed between two countries in order to move Dr. Kizza Besigye in this case from Kenya back into Uganda so that he can be put or charged for whatever crimes he's being charged with as far as the General Court Martial is concerned. And that is being debated. Mr. Ebil, you were talking about how the legalities are there and they do exist, but this is not the first time you're dating this abuse of this act right back to the Bush War.
Yes, what I want to first put forward is that Ugandans should know that and appreciate the UPC government for at least putting that law in place. It was put by the Obote I government. So in other words, that means UPC respected the rights of Ugandans. That's why we put that law. We should appreciate that. Two, in 1980, candidate Yoweri Kaguta Museveni went to 3 rallies and mentioned severally that if the elections were rigged, he would go to the bush, threatening. So that was a threat. But we never, as a party, as a government then, because Paulo Mwanga was in government at that time, but the government then never arrested him.
You didn't
because
consider
twice they went to Dr. Obote, they told him that, but the candidate is threatening. He said, no, let him speak. If you arrest him, he will be popular. He's looking for popularity. Now, he was threatening. He even at one time said, let him go to the bush, we shall follow him there. So in other words, you cannot just say that Dr. Besigye, because he said elections cannot be won in Uganda, that was a threat. Until he commits a crime or goes to the bush, like they went with Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to the bush, that's when you take action. But to arrest somebody, the way he's saying that through intelligence gathering, information gathered by intelligence services, that you follow somebody, pick him up, just in a foreign land, to spoil the image of the country, that was not enough. If we couldn't arrest candidate Yoweri Kaguta Museveni then, while threatening to go to the bush, why arrest Besigye?
Why was there never a consideration of preventative arrest?
At that time, because
we have seen that happening to Dr. Kizza.
For us, we believed, in UPC, we believe that all Ugandans have equal rights and equal chances to serve their country. So we believe that arresting candidate Yoweri Museveni would be wrong at that time. So we allowed him to continue until he went to the bush. That's when the government followed him up. But even then in the bush, people came to say that bomb them down, because there were few. Dr. Obote said, no, you cannot bomb. They're Ugandans. They're people's relatives. You cannot just go and bomb them there. But today, you know what would have happened if we were in the bush and president was the president, they would bomb people there. So we are saying that we should start thinking about the lives of Ugandans. We should know that those people also have relatives. They have people who would be crying when they see their relatives incarcerated. So unless they commit a crime like the case of Jamil Mukulu, whereby he was brought in by the Tanzanian government, the government went through the due process, that is when we can say, yeah, that was right. Okay. But this one, I think because of the many lies that were told to Ugandans, people should start talking the truth. So I think it's a high time. I know President Museveni is out there listening, and he knows it in his heart that he wanted a better Uganda for all of us. So I believe time has come when the president should deliver to the Ugandans the right foundation for us to have a free and fair elections by bringing the reforms so that people go through the path of elections, not the violent means that they went through to come to power. Okay. We all want our country to be better than we found it.
Mr. Bamwine, you earlier mentioned a statement and you said that Dr. Kizza Besigye is a suspect. All Ugandans are suspects unless proven guilty or there's an act that has been committed in order to then change that status. And so where we stand right now, Dr. Kizza is a suspect. If he is a suspect, then why did the security operatives go through that much without consideration of the legalities that they can go through if he's just a suspect? Hold him in Kenya, go through the courts in Kenya, and then have the transfer made legally, and then you can have the, the charges being given to him here in Uganda.
Now, Prisha, there is, if there's something a bit difficult, is to lead the country in a democracy. Because in a country where there's democracy, a thief must be protected. Even a murderer who has been red-handed caught has rights. Then this CFD also has rights. So the state is in between to give rights to everybody. Those, the criminals, the suspects, those who are innocent. It is the responsibility of the state to make sure that those rights are regulated and they are protected according to the law. So it's not a bed of roses. And I have already said, I can even state it now, although we are 62 years of independence, but we are still a young country. I can tell you the framers of the Constitution 1995, there are certain things they did not envisage. For instance, a situation, assuming it is true, a situation whereby people are in another country and planning to destabilizing your country. What did they think about? But me, I want to assure everybody, whether you are a religious leader, a political leader, or an ordinary person, you are not insulated from arrest as long as you are suspected.
And therefore, why should security authorities, why should government be insulated from going through the
No, it's not insulated. That's why they are speaking of. That's why the council has told you they are in court now, and we expect.
But then they're not in court.
And we expect.
If it's by law, they are illegal.
And we expect they'll put their case to defend their suspects. The state will bring their pieces of evidence, and they will evaluate them. But there's a group which I want to choose. Political lawyer activists. I think they have not done a good job. For instance, when you look at the UPDF Act, where they were charged, and there is, I don't know how the phrase is, but there is a statement which says if you are found with materials of UPDF, then you have volunteered yourself to the army. Now, that act was made in 2005, I think, But we have lawyers who are politicians here, and they have not challenged it. Then, recently, remember there was a gazette by UPDF on its symbols and signatures. There's a statement which says, if you are found wearing anything nearly resembling UPDF signatures, then you will be liable. Now, when you say a statement like that one, I can tell you, many people will be arrested. I have seen musicians, they go to...
Before you go to musicians, we have seen members of parliament wearing this thing.
Nearly resembling.
And they are with the boss.
That's what I'm saying. But if you are arrested, the law is there. But you have lawyers who at the same time they are politicians and they are not organizing this law. If assuming it is unconstitutional, assuming it is not a good law. So me, I want to appeal to everybody who likes this country. Across the board, let us pick out what is good for all of us as Ugandans. That's why I started with the question of stability of the country. Even if you don't support the government, but you need a stable Uganda. Two, if a situation has happened as this one has happened, I'm very sure I can tell you, as the process goes on, these lawyers will have to know what Kenya has, what is the arrangement between Uganda and Kenya, but to unpack it. They'll ask the questions as he's asking. But I'm very sure that the institutions we have, you have seen the government losing cases in court. You have seen people winning cases in court martial. So, this is our country. If you have a state which is empowered by law to protect all Ugandans and their properties, and they get warning signals that Mr. Ebil is having sinister motives, they have to pick you. He used an example of President Museveni when he says, if elections are rigged, I'll go to the bush, and he was not arrested. So, if he was not arrested, where is UPC government? This government you're seeing now is making 38 years. It's not by accident that they go to the church and play, then somehow they... No, it's by design. About 28 groups have tried to remove it by use of force, and they have not succeeded because the security apparatus of this country is robust. Of course, others have been convicted, others have won the cases, but you may even win a case, but when you have, at least you have been deterred from continuing to plan to destabilize the country. And that's why once Besigye has been campaigning that he doesn't believe in removing this government through elections, I think he was inviting security agencies to keep an eye on him. But me, I will not want to commit myself to that because I have not looked at the piece of evidence they have against him. I've just looked at the charge they presented, and now that the matter is in court, I don't think that I need to go deeper than that. Okay. But at least as an actor, Besigye has been on record that this government must be removed by other means other than elections.
Where you're seated, I do believe that you do have some responses you'd like to share with us. Yes.
I want us to delve into the issue of the UPDF Act a little. Because Bamwine tries to mean that the UPDF Act is there, their tribunal, which they call a court, is there legally, and should try civilians. And for us, we are saying no. And you see, when he says that the government is good at, it has lost cases, it's democratic, we disagree totally. Why do I say that? So today we have 3 standing constitutional cases that have declared that trying of civilians in that court martial is illegal and a nullity. And in all those cases, the court has directed that let all the pending matters be transferred to the criminal division of the High Court. That has not happened. The first one was Uganda Law Society versus the Attorney General, 2005. They lost, government lost that case. They appealed, and in 2009, the Supreme Court made the same declaration. The only thing that the Supreme Court did was try to give directive on who can be charged in the general court martial, even if they are civilian. And it was very clear, someone who is aiding or abetting a commission of a service offense. Okay. Now, you cannot aid or abet unless there is a standing offense. So, the only exception where a civilian can be charged in a general court martial is when they have aided or abetted. Let me finish.
Yeah, it will help us.
No. Let him finish. Let him finish.
Now, the UPDF Act defines what a service offense is and defines what service is. And for you to commit a service offense, you must be in service. And service means being active in the forces. That's the UPDF Act, which is a 2005 Act. Now, this government has refused to respect these decisions. Then there's a Kabazuruka decision. Mike Kabazuruka, immediately he was declared MP for Nakawa. In 2016, he was arrested, charged. When the Constitutional Court case determined, still, civilians should not be tried in the General Court Martial. Government has appealed. The Chief Justice has sat on the appeal to date. Recently, I think 2022, there's Aaron Rugaba and about 400 others. Still, he's a retired captain, I think. Went to court and said, I'm not supposed to be tried in this court. And the Constitution has agreed with him. So we still don't see why civilians or even retired personnel from the army should be tried in that court. Okay. Yes.
All right. On that regard, because our time is coming to a wrap up, as the legal team, what steps are you taking and what next?
One, as the legal team, we expected to be back in court on the 2nd of December, and we shall be there ready to try and get the liberty of the two personnel. But also we are trying to look at all available avenues, both national and regional. We disagree with the manner in which people are being brought back to Uganda, and we may need to have the Constitutional Court interpret for us what extradition means, since government has proved to us that they do not understand the laws in place. Then we may need another arm of government to help them understand that, look, we are in this, we are 3 arms, our colleagues in Parliament put up this law, you're supposed to implement it, but you implement it in the wrong way. So please go by this. And then at the regional level, we in touch with our colleagues from Kenya to see how this can come to an end. Because it's not the first time it has happened. It happened the Kisumu 36. I think after about a month or so. In which you made reference that Kenya is not a safe haven. This is for Uganda's political figures in reference. Is there a solution around that legally, as far as regional integration is concerned? Yes. See, yes, for Ugandans, but I think for the entire world. You must be aware that there were Turkish nationals who were handed back, yet they were running for refuge this side. So Kenya seems to be very eager to send back whenever the other party calls upon them. Okay. Now, safe haven, regionally, yes, I can say it today, we shall go to the East African Court of Justice, because we are in the East African community, and we believe people should be safe. But again, there are other international laws. Just 1 minute. When you look at the Kisumu 36, there's a refugee. Now, even the international refugee laws do not allow a hosting country for a refugee to return him back when he has refugee status. But okay. I think all right. Thank you so much, Kizza Wanda. I'm going to allow you both friends 1 minute to wrap up.
I think I don't know. The lawyer is mixing up everything. I don't think that Besigye, for instance, went and reported to Kenya that he's a refugee?
No, I didn't say that. I said they shouldn't.
Neither the 36.
There's a refugee.
Did they go and report that we are refugees? These are Ugandans.
They don't need to report that they are refugees.
No, there's a
by
difference. For you to be a refugee,
no,
they're not the ones on
For you to be a refugee, you must go and declare that I'm a refugee.
For information purposes,
from my country.
Simon Utaroma is a refugee with a refugee card.
But these are Ugandans who came from here. They say they are going for a conference.
So when
even Besigye now
seeking asylum within the region,
once you're a refugee, you have declared.
Taking away the mark of the refugee. Taking away the mark of the refugee.
For the record, but accused number 2.
So there are two individuals.
Yeah.
You can go to these other countries as a private person to do your own things.
Okay.
But then you may also go running out from your government. And there's no government that will ever send away somebody back to where he has run away from.
Okay.
Maybe if he is declaring
let me allow
that they were running out from their country,
closing remarks,
then it can take a different trend.
We are going into the election cycle.
I wish you can...
You've used your time, defending the 36.
I wanted to give him information. He talked about the Kabazooka case.
No, it's not about giving information. Your closing remarks, Mr. Bamwine.
There was an appeal. And once there is an appeal, and they set aside... They set aside and stay of execution. Then that means the status is as it is before the ruling.
And they got also
before the ruling.
All right.
So
I'm going to buy you both a cup of tea so that we can extend that conversation at Serena Hotel. Mr. Ebil.
Thank you, panelists, my dear panelists. I'm addressing the Ugandans, fellow Ugandans. You've heard the challenges that we are facing as a nation. The country is sick. We are facing democracy deficit, and we are facing the rule of law deficit. As you've seen, a citizen being picked from a neighboring country, things that we saw during Amin's time.
And about a time?
About a time there was nothing, I've told you. So we are seeing these things happening.
Okay.
I appeal to you, in 2026, vote back UPC so that we go back to the past glory that we had as a country, where citizens were respected. That's why President Museveni, his children were safe, and the wife in Sweden. That is why we never arrested those of our Mama Mbabazi in Nairobi, and Matthew Rukukaire, and the rest of the group of the external wing.
Okay.
We respected them, and we will respect citizens of Uganda who are abroad legally. We will never arrest them. Vote for UPC in 2026 to bring back democracy.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Fred Ebil, thank you so much. Council Wanda Samuel, thank you so much. Fred Bamwine, thank you so much. After here, I'm taking you all for a cup of coffee so that we finish this conversation. But at the end of the day, as we wrap it up, it begs the question, is this a statement to the opposition of the willingness and necessary steps to be taken for a political triumph as we get into the electoral cycle yet again ahead of the 2026 general elections? But also, can these signal messages come back as an active politician or on the political scene? All those questions, we wait out time to see which answers we will get. Thank you so much for being with us here in Morning at NTV. Have yourselves a good day. I am Priscilla Regina Nalwoga.